All right, welcome back to the shop. We're here again, and this time we're going to be discussing my personal $9,000 KLR. Yes, you heard right, I said a $9,000 KLR. Most of the people out there will start by thinking I'm crazy. I'm sure this video will spark debate. I'm not suggesting for a minute that you can't do it cheaper or maybe even better. This is just my personal build, how I did it, and I'm going to sum it up and show you firsthand how personally I spent $9,000 building this KLR to be what it is today. As we go through each of these items, I'll give you some close-ups so that you can see exactly what these parts are, and I'll overlay the dollar amounts as we work through the video so that you can see how it goes from a $6,500 MSRP to a $9,000 total sum. All right, so we'll get started up front here, and one of the first and obvious upgrades is this zero gravity windscreen. It is the tall version and it is the smoked version. I really like that, not only because of the wind deflection that it offers, but also I just think that the look of it is really nice with the bike. And that's compounded with the KLR Dash kit. I purchased both the KLR Dash upper and the KLR Dash lower. The combination of those three really dress up this motorcycle. You gain a nice mounting platform for your GPS or phone or other devices. You gain two 12-volt outlets right around the ignition key, which I think is just perfect positioning for those, as well as a voltmeter and a switch to turn those on and off. So that's the first upgrade there, and I think it's well worth the money. I've seen some people online that say that it's a little too expensive, but I really think that given the quality and the precision of these parts, I think they're well worth exactly what the KLR Dash site offers them for. So highly recommend those. As I mentioned earlier, the KLR Dash makes for a great place to mount things. In this particular case, I've chosen a amps mount for Garmin, and I really like it because it bolts right up to the KLR Dash. I've got the wires run down underneath and behind so that it's hardwired into the bike. This mount is really nice because it does have a screw lock mechanism on the top of it so that you can secure your device if you're away from the bike. I've never had any trouble whatsoever with the GPS moving around or even coming close to falling out of the bike, so I really like it for that reason as well. It has a nice little rubber flap that goes down and covers the contacts so that when you're washing the bike, you don't, spray the contacts with water and they start to corrode. And then the other big thing is that by having it mounted up here on the KLR Dash, it puts it right in your line of sight, which is a really nice feature, both when you're sitting and also when you're standing on the bike. It makes it much easier to see your route as you're traveling along. While we're at the front of the motorcycle, we'll talk about the hand guards. All of these motorcycles typically come with just cheap plastic hand guards, and they just don't offer much in the way of true protection when you drop the bike. So I opted for these Tusk hand guards. I really like them because they combine the integrated turn signals right here in the hand guard, and that allows you to do what I've done here, which is remove the OEM turn signals and keep those from hitting the ground or breaking off. And I also think it cleans up the bike a little bit. Personally, I wish there was a little plate or something that I could put over to cover up these holes, but I still think it looks better without them. And those are a reasonably priced hand guard. They do have the integrated turn signals and fit up real nicely to the bars here. So that's another one that I would highly recommend. And I don't think there's really a better, cheaper option out there in terms of a good quality hand guard that is an aluminum supported hand guard with the integrated turn signals. So highly recommend that. So from the hand guards, we'll work our way down to the crash bars. These are the SW-MOTECH crash bars. I really like these. I think they fit really well on the bike. They offer a great amount of protection for this upper fairing here. And the other thing that you'll notice is that the crash guards that I have on here, as well as the skid plate and also the center stand, are all SW-MOTECH. And I think that's really important to go with a single manufacturer for those pieces. And the reason for that is because they all bolt up to similar locations. So as you're trying to fit pieces together, it's important to make sure that the crash bars won't interfere with the skid plate won't interfere with the center stand. So picking a company like SW-MOTECH in this case, where they all fit together and are engineered together, I think is well worth the investment, because you'll find that they fit really well on the bike and they don't conflict with each other as you're mounting them up. So again, SW-MOTECH for the crash bars, the skid plate, and the center stand. After the crash protection, then the next area that I moved on to was the foldable shift lever. And this foldable shift lever is from Tusk. It fits up nicely on the bike. If you drop the bike, you're not going to break the shift lever, which can leave you stranded if you're out in the middle of nowhere. Instead, the tip will fold. It's also a little bit longer, which really helps for me because I ride with motocross boots. So I like the length and positioning of it, as well as the foldable end that will protect it in the case of a drop. Right next to those is going to be the more open, dirt-oriented foot pegs. These are a really great option. And to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what brand these are, but you can find them around for roughly the same price. And they're a really great option because they do allow mud and dirt to drop down through, doesn't clog up, and the spikes on here are, you know, much better for riding in those off-road conditions. The stock foot pegs have the rubber mounts on them, and so they do tend to make a nice vibration-free ride on the highway, but not offer that off-road capability that the more open pegs do. So I highly recommend those. A small and cheap upgrade is a sealed battery, and I'll explain why you want to immediately swap the battery that comes in your KLR. The KLR battery is not sealed from the manufacturer, and what can happen, what did happen to me, is if you drop the bike and it's sitting on its side for a period of time, the acid will actually drain out of the overflow tube that's right here on the side of the motorcycle. And then obviously once the acid levels have gone down, your battery will stop holding a charge. So I would highly recommend getting a sealed battery so that that never happens to you. You can rely on your bike starting every single time. Another key upgrade on this motorcycle is going to be the tires. Again, OEMs just don't offer these bikes with what I think are really decent 50/50 or off-road oriented tires. I happen to be running the Heidenau K60 Scouts on this bike, and I would highly recommend those. I've run a lot of miles on them on both of my bikes, and I think they're really good. They wear well, they handle well in most conditions, and are a tremendous upgrade on a KLR 650. Moving on to luggage, there's quite a few options out there. Personally, I really like the Tusk hard bags. They're a reasonably priced option. The racks that they mount up to fit perfectly onto the bike, and so the combination of the racks and the Tusk bags, these happen to be the large bags, they do accommodate longer trips really nicely. And then in addition to the hard bags on the back, I also have the KLR OEM tank bag, and the reason why I like that one is because it does raise up and you can actually extend it pretty far. It has an opening around the gas cap so that you don't have to take it off to refuel, and it just fits nice and snugly on the bike, and it doesn't go anywhere when you're riding along. In some of my other videos, you'll see that I've run a magnetic tank bag. Those tend to fall off. So you might pay a little bit more for the KLR specific tank bag, but again, I really like that option because it does stay on the bike well, and it does allow you the option to refuel without taking the tank bag off. Then the last piece of luggage, and it seems like a small one, but I tell you what, this is a really extremely versatile and flexible option, is this little handlebar bag. And I find that a really convenient place to stick, you know, cables and chargers and my phone or any other little items that you don't want to pack away in the rear saddlebags or the tank bag because you want quick and easy access to them. With it mounted on the handlebar, I also think it kind of cleans up the look of the bike while you're sitting in the seat. I know that might sound a bit superficial, but again, I like it, and it is a convenient place to store things, so I would recommend that one as well. One of the upgrades that you can't see is down underneath the bike, and that is a small little device, and it is a magnetic oil plug. And basically, I highly recommend that too, because when you put it in there, it's going to collect any metal shavings or anything like that down in the bottom of the oil pan and keep them from cycling their way through your engine. So small little thing that makes a big difference, and relatively cheap to do. When it comes to comfort on a KLR, the stock seat is not the most comfortable. So on this bike, what I've done is I've put the Sergeant seat on here. I really like this seat. It's far more comfortable than the OEM seat, and it's actually shaped a little bit differently, which might help some riders because it is a little bit narrower up front. It helps to ride in more off-road conditions if you're standing, but then on the longer highway stints, it's nice and soft. So much better than the OEM seat, and another upgrade that I would highly recommend. From comfort, we move on to yet another protection item, and this one is a little crash guard that goes over the rear reservoir. I don't know that that one's really needed, but again, just the whole theme of trying to protect the bike, I did put one of those on there, and they're not too expensive, but they do start to add up again in terms of the overall cost. So in closing, there you have it. A Nears makes no difference, $9,000 KLR 650. Bear in mind that I do not have the thermal bob upgrades or any suspension upgrades. If you were to include those, you could quickly approach $10,000 in a KLR 650. My goal is not to discourage anyone from purchasing one of these motorcycles or even making these upgrades. Personally, I feel that it's well worth even the $10,000 entry price because that's still a great deal of value considering the shape that the bike will be in once you're done with all of these upgrades. I've ridden this bike a ton of miles. I've taken the Trans-Iowa Trail trip. Be sure to check that out. I'll leave a card up top so that you can view that one and a link down below. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up and like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue to grow this and increase to meet the new YouTube policy counts. So until next time, take care.